What is the most disturbing secret you know, but can't say anything about it? My best friend in middle and high school got sent to a military academy / boarding school for troubled teens with behavior problems, not because he had any behavior problems, but because his parents just didn't want him around for a few years. I learned this when I went over to his place. We were both sitting in the living room and he went outside for something through the door in the kitchen. You can't see the living room from the kitchen. And I guess they either didn't know I was in there or thought I went outside with him and said a bunch of stuff like I can't wait for him to be gone. Wish we had the money to send him for the longer one, but a few years is better than none. Yeah, it'll be nice to be rid of him for a while. Shit like that. My friend didn't have any behavior problems that I knew of. He was always pretty chill and didn't get into too much trouble at school. But they sent him and he went. Luckily he came back and was the same as before he went. The only thing that changed was he almost always wore a jacket with the academy's logo on it as a sort of protest. I'm pretty sure that he figured it out, but I would never bring it up. We are not in contact anymore. Anyway, this is not the saddest thing here by far, but it's still so very sad to be so unwanted. I'm glad your friend came back unscathed, it seems. I'm not really sure what his home life was like, because we didn't talk about it that much, but whenever I came over his parents were nice, and they seemed to get along. While I can't think of what could possibly justify what they said and did, I told myself that maybe there's some piece of the puzzle I don't know, and that I shouldn't judge. He was the same as ever when he came back. He told a lot of stories about how the academy was really rough and that he hated it, but always wrapped it up with saying something like, "But that shit's over lol, so it's whatever." I'll say one thing, when the dude got back he was in great shape. He was skinny and lanky before, but when he came back he was ripped. My parents have had these couches since I was like 9 years old. I'm 30 now. They've moved from house to house and room to room over the years and now reside in my aunt's second home in the basement. There is a brown stain under one of the cushions that my mom and my aunt always complained they couldn't get out, no matter what they tried. That stain is a shit stain from when I wiped my ass on the couch as a kid. I think I'll tell them the next time I visit. Edit. The positive response to this post has led me to do the right thing and confess after all these years. Seeing as that shit stain is now old enough to drink, the consequences seemed pretty low. My aunt wants to look for a new couch. But his dad is actually his uncle, and his uncle, that is actually his dad, raped his mom when she was drunk one night. It's why his family doesn't talk to that uncle. He and his parents are the only ones that know in the family. Edit. Buddies to buddies. Edit 2. My buddy. Screw the person all mad that I call him buddy. I have lots of friends, but very few buddies. Is 30 and there is way more to the story as to why they chose not to pursue rape charges in 1990. Why a DNA test would have likely revealed the truth. And no, I have never posted this before. How TF do you know? I was the one who got him a DNA test for his birthday. I was there when his parents came over to drop off his gift from them and witnessed the argument that ensued when they told him not to do it after he told them. I'm the one who tipped over the Faygo vending machine at the local Liga in 2008. There, I said it. Happy now? Are you happy now? Feel a bit better tbh. I found out my friend's mom dressed him up as a girl to humiliate him as a punishment for arguing with his sister. Charles Manson, Ed Gein, and Henry Lee Lucas all had that done to them. Hope your buddy is doing alright. Damn bro, I'm not really close with that friend anymore, but I do hope for his mental health. My aunt used to sell her 3 kids to infants, twin girls, and 1 toddler boy to grown men for a night, so she could make rent, and my grandmother caught wind of it. She called CPS, Child Protective Services, and the kids were taken away. My aunt willing gave up her kids, but only if none of them were allowed to be adopted by any family members. They went to very intensive therapy to the point none of them remember what happened. My grandma fought like hell, court case after court case for 5 years to get them back. Only me and my grandma know the real reason why they were taken away, and it's only because one of them asked my grandma for her medical records and wanted to go through them herself, but my grandma wouldn't let her in fear of her finding out. She got mad and argued with my grandma, and after a while left. I went down to see what happened, and my grandma was crying and explained everything to me. My cousin and his half-sister are in a relationship. She moved in with him a year and a half ago, saying it was to protect their immune-compromised dad. Now that the vaccine has been out, everyone keeps asking why she is still living there. Cousin let me know what's up, since I own the duplex he lives in, and we see each other all the time. They've been hooking up for a while now, and the pandemic just gave them an excuse to finally live together. Sweet baby Jesus. More like Sweet Home Alabama. My friend and his wife just had a miscarriage. None of the women in their lives know, and always complain, that she's been so emotional lately, and that she is turning into a bitch. They have openly debated stopping contact with her in front of me, and all I can really say is, maybe she is going through something, and needs friends now more than ever. I've never personally witnessed the aftermath of a miscarriage from this close before. It truly is life-altering. For what it's worth, it is a lot more common than anyone expects simply because people suffer in silence. The real numbers are estimated to run between 25% and 33% of women experience pregnancy loss at some point in their lives. Talking about it helps. It really does. Tell your friend they aren't alone, and don't have to perpetuate the cycle of silence around pregnancy loss. It isn't anyone's fault. Sometimes pregnancies just don't work out. Thanks. I have been talking to him all the time about it. The hardest part is that she is blaming him for it going wrong, and it has caused a huge fissure in their marriage. They now sit in separate rooms every night and do nothing but argue, and she just sleeps from 5 PM until 11 AM every day. I have tried to help by telling him to be the change he wants to see, but it doesn't appear to be getting through. They are genuinely great people, and I hate to see them go downhill like this. Seeing some of these, it's not super bad, but my mother recently admitted the divorce was due to her cheating on my father, and then proceeded to say we got over it, but it seemed he just wouldn't love me ever again. She tried to turn it on him despite them agreeing they wouldn't make sides to the divorce at all. But in reality, she wants to be the good guy in it, but is simply not the good guy, but she feels she is, because she didn't want the divorce. She wanted unadulterated forgiveness. But I digress. My sister had a boyfriend of 2 years cheat on her on a trip to Scotland, and when she brought it up for advice to the family, she didn't want to end it. It was 2 years. She said, part of me says once a cheater always a cheater, but and then my dad said there's truth too. That basically the screwed up thing I know is the inner workings of the things that have happened the past 2 years. And that one of the people is a piece of shit in it, but they are my own mother, so I can't really just say you a piece of shit and walk away. I just have to hold it and bear it, possibly forever. I don't see any time where I could let it out. I'm the future either. Know someone who was definitely groomed by the youth pastor at 14. He was married at the time and is at least 12 years older than her. Eventually she went off to college and he got divorced. They are now married with 3 kids. He lost his job as the assistant FB coach at our high school while we were attending, and left the church he was working for to start a new one, which makes me suspicious it wasn't just grooming. My married, close colleague slash boss was cheating on his wife, at least for a while. I know this because one of the girls he hooked up with from Tinder was a friend of mine from outside work. He used a fake name, but told her his real profession, so she asked if I knew him, and we figured it out pretty quick. He has no idea I know, and it's been several years since then. Similar thing here. Before I switched stores, I remember hearing about one of the big bosses who had an affair with one of the lower tier employees. I heard it from one of the managers, so it wasn't well known. We just gossiped about it briefly, and that was that. I never knew the guy's name or met him. About a year later I was asked to move to one of the new stores to help train all the new staff. Moving to a new store meant I was working with a different manager. He was very likable, funny, and we got along well in the work setting. He ended up opening a couple more stores and would move me to them whenever they opened. Because of this we had a pretty solid friendship, even though he was about 20 years older than me. It got to the point where he'd drive me home from work often. He confided in me about his marriage and family, etc. Then one day he asks my advice on a hypothetical situation, strongly implying it was true though, about GF issues. I made a joke, after giving him the advice, that I thought he was married. The more we talked and we are around each other, the more and more I started putting things together. I knew he lived in a big house with his wife and kids, but then he would talk about his condo, GF problems versus wife problems, things like that. A friend of a friend confronted me one day after coming to my work and told me about how she parties with him and his GF in their condo every weekend and how he goes on huge coke binges and doesn't sleep for days and whatnot. I kept it to myself, never told him I knew. I guess his GF flopped and he started hitting on me all the time. This is about 3 years into me working for him. I lost all respect in him after that. I stayed long enough that he bought me an iPad and then I dipped with no explanation. That was a year ago and he's still trying to contact me. I peed on my basement floor and ruined our sound system. It wasn't the dog. Do you mean you peed and blamed the dog? The dog peed and you got blamed, or that you said you ruined the sound system but actually you peed on the dog? I blamed the dog. Released I wrote that wrong. Did you realize you didn't do too well on this one either? 2 instances of incest in the family that only me and the people who did the thing know about. I know a guy cheating on his wife with a girl in a different country. He strung her along for years and eventually ghosted her when he got bored. She was so distraught that she swallowed a bunch of pills. She made it out and still randomly sends him emails begging for him to take her back. I saw my stepmother have fun with my drug dealer for coke and I waited outside the room while he screwed her. This was 15 years ago. I've never told anyone. Wait, was the coke for her or for you? The coke was for her. I was with him. He had asked me to chill with him. So he went to my old house and I saw my dad's ex-wife, which we were still close as me, and her sons were like brothers. We were raised together. I thought he was gonna make a sale to my stepbrother. She opened the door. I heard them talking in the kitchen. I felt weird and heard her say, "What about him?" My dealer said nah, he good. So they went into her bedroom and I could hear him screwing the shit out of her. About 45 minutes later they come downstairs. We leave and he says, "Damn, I hope you not mad." He says, "I just screwed your stepmother. She wanted a gram. She had no money." I called her later and asked why'd she do it. She called her, "Just ask me." I Walder gave it to her. She denied the whole thing. So I knew if I said anything she would. Someone nearly stole our family van with my sister, 6, and me, 8, in it. My mom had run into the preschool to pick up my brother and left the car running. A guy jumped into the driver's seat, looked behind him, and saw both of us. We all froze for what felt like a long time. He quietly left and ran. My sister and I agreed that, since no harm was done, we wouldn't mention it to mom. I'm imagining him doing the mental math as he looked back at you. HMM. I'm ready to serve the year of jail time if I get caught for Grand Theft Auto, but I'm not ready for the 15 to 20 years. That will come with 2 counts of kidnapping on top of that. I'm sure that guy appreciated that. Mayo. That was said to me by a child psychologist with a never ever tell that story to anyone over 10 years ago, so I'm hoping for some kind of a lot of time has passed forgiveness. She was working with a family with 2 sons aged 4 and 6. Your typical cornflakes type middle class family. The boys were presenting aggressive, violent and out of place behavior towards each other. She was staying with the family to observe and monitor and figure out what was wrong. The boys went to have a bath and mom agreed for my friend to help. Younger boy started giving the older one a blowjob. Mom did not react, business as usual. My friend did, basically asking what the hell. Mom tried to explain it's normal and it makes them calmer and go to sleep quicker, so she allows it. Long story short, one of the family members was sexually abusing the boys and they just picked up the behaviors, but were then compensating with being both very sexual and very violent with each other. My friend guided them towards an experienced psychiatrist as well as reported to the nearest police station and got out of there. Dang. But what about the mom? She knew and didn't do anything about it? So there's a whole massive backstory and more messed up things to it that I really can't share. No, mom did not think there was anything wrong with it. It happened in an Eastern European country where the sexual education is highly discouraged. Mother was also quite a young person who, as my friend told in the story, was genuinely not aware that what the boys were doing was sexual. Her primary concern was that the boys were very violent to each other and didn't follow her instructions. There's a plethora of evidence for it, I just can't share it. I know that a friend of mine is responsible for the death of at least 2 people and maybe more. My friend used to use a website to sell drugs online in addition to dealing on a limited basis in person. He mostly sold molly, mescaline and weed. He was making decent money, but kept his operation small because he didn't want to attract a lot of attention. Long story short, his regular connect got busted, so he had to find another person to source his product from fast. His friend introduced him to this sketchy dude when they were at a bar downtown. The idea was that this was a business meetup, so he asked my friend if he wanted to buy anything, and he tells him that he's got hookups for really good blowin' weed. Now, I should mention that my friend is normally a really cautious dude and normally wouldn't get into business with someone he didn't know, but he was desperate for a new connect because his regular clients were starting to go elsewhere. I mean, this is how this dude was paying his rent. So, he agrees to purchase coke off and weed off of him, just until he can find a better connect. FFW a couple of weeks and the arrangement is going well. He's tested the blow for opiates and it's all clean. Plus he's getting decent feedback from his clients. Consequently, he ends up getting complacent. He ends up not testing some batches of coke, assuming that this new connect is solid. Everything is still fine. Clients keep coming back, saying it's good stuff. Then, all of a sudden, he starts seeing FB posts about one of his clients. Friends and family members are posting, saying that he'll pull through, pray for our boy and all sorts of stuff like that. So he gets paranoid and tests the rest of the batch that he has. Sure enough, it's positive for opiates, probably fentanyl. He freaks the hell out. He starts messaging everyone he sold to on a burner, telling them to dump the shit. He'll get them back. Sure enough, the sister, who he is also friends with on FB, of one of the guys he sold to messages him and tells him that her brother is in the hospital from an odd 2. He freaks out, doesn't message anyone back, deletes his account on the website, and dumped all of his shit. Both of these kids odd and were brain dead due to a lack of oxygen, so the respective families pulled the plugs. He also sold about an ounce of the blow online too, so who knows how many people he may have killed. My friend waited for days for the cops to come and bust his door down, but no one ever came to question him. Shortly after, my buddy left town and transferred to a different college. This was about 7 or 8 years ago, and since then he has finished college, has a decent job, and has a new fiancée. He's doing really well from what I can see, but damn, I can't imagine how busted up he still is. Only him, myself and maybe his brother know. This question reminds me of when my grandmother revealed her dark secret when my grandfather died, which was on October 28th, ironically, but many years ago. Her big dark secret was that she lied about her age, and she was actually 3 years older than she said, but she didn't want to be older than her significant other, and she kept that secret until he died, and then told the whole family. Most wholesome deep dark secret I've ever heard. This was refreshing to read in such a dark thread. No one knows my grandma's real age. Anytime it gets brought up, she laughs and says she's 27. She's been 27 for a couple decades now. I think she just likes to have a secret and keeps her age a need to know basis. I can respect that wish. She's an old lady with terrible COPD. Let her live the way she wants to it now. One of my uncles has an existing marriage aside from his current one right now. The current wife he's been married to for the last 10 to 13 years I think, but the former wife he was married to 3 to 4 years before that. I'm not quite particular on laws like that in our country, Philippines, so I'm not sure how that works either. The former wife just went Maya after she flew to Taiwan to work. I'm pretty sure my uncle's current wife doesn't know, but the rest of the side of our family does. My 2 best friends slept with the same guy the same night. They both told me, and they both don't know about the other one. Don't worry, the dude probably told everyone. I'm retired military with 3 deployments OEF. My job was convoy security. I can't begin to count how many PPL, families, animals etc was shot or ran over when you're not allowed to stop or slow down. Ye from Middle English was never pronounced like ye. The letter is not a Y, but thorn, which was pronounced like TH. So it's more like hear thee as well. I was researching my family tree using a website and my search linked with someone else. The person I linked with asked me to stop researching the family tree as his mother had had an affair with a married member of my family years ago, and he was the result of that affair. To protect his mother he asked me not to say anything, and to remove all trace of him from my research. Not disturbing, but the only secret I know. My school friend's dad is actually in a second marriage with my friend's mom. His dad had a family earlier, 2 grown-up sons and a wife, all of whom died in a car accident. My friend doesn't know, but his mom knows. Why do I know? It's because my uncle and friend's dad were classmates in college who reconnected because of my friend and I. He told me this when I asked him why someone would choose to have 8 kids in a marriage despite the unemployment and poverty rates of our country. My friend has 7 brothers and sisters. Obviously not the most disturbing secret I know, but the other ones, I would rather keep quiet, because I don't even want to recall them back to my memory. Did a lot of work with companies and people related to Panama Papers, have an extensive NDA protecting them from any information disclosure. I ate your meatballs, Dad. I was hungry and lunch sucked at school that day. Read this wrong. I thought the meatball had parents. When I was 15, my friend found my mum's dildo, stuck it to the wall, and it ripped the plaster off. I still deny any knowledge of it. Not sure if this counts, but here goes. When I was 18, I killed my abusive father after I caught him attacking my mother who was suffering from cancer. My grandfather was visiting when he saw me standing over the body in a bloody mess. I quickly explained what happened, but unfortunately the noise attracted attention from the neighbors and the police arrived quickly, because where I was living there was almost always a couple of police cars exchanging reports. Anyways, before I can act, my grandfather told me to give him my clothes, which were stained with my father's blood. He put them on and forced me to hide in the attic as I still had blood on me. When the police entered the house, they found my grandfather viciously beating the corpse of my father, and they took him into custody as he claimed responsibility for the death of my father. While in prison, he made me promise not to tell anyone in our family the truth and to focus on making myself a better person while taking care of my mother. Your grandfather is a good man for doing that. Yes, he was. Even during family events we don't talk about it. I owe him so much. A friend of mine has been with her boyfriend for about 7 years. As far as I know, they love each other very much, moved into their first house together recently, and are talking about having kids. A few years ago I was out with her and a large group of friends. Big party in the park kinda thing. She's a bit of a nutcase when drunk, and several times over the course of the night, I had to stop her from going home with one of the guys in the group. I don't know him that well, but he's attractive, charismatic and a bit of a player. They made out at least twice. As we walked past his place towards the end of the night, they were giggling and making out, and he was pulling her inside, and believe me, she was letting him. I literally had to shout her name and call her back. Next time I saw her, I talked to her about it, and she was shocked, ashamed, and thanked me for stopping her. Had zero recollection of what happened. I never told anyone else, because it's not my business. All I did was try to stop her from cheating. She did make out with a guy who wasn't her boyfriend, but yes, you definitely stopped her from going further. Yeah, in my book that is cheating. But funnily enough, none of my other friends seemed to be worried that she was kissing another dude. A close friend killed someone. If he didn't do it, he would have been killed instead. The amount of tax evasion and money laundering disguised as clever accounting in corporations and large academic institutions. I almost did coke in the bathroom in middle school. It wasn't a pre-decided choice. I was in a program with 10 other students and I needed to use the washroom during lunch. The bathrooms were small, had 2 stalls and 1 sink. I walked in, and 3 of my classmates were in there. They were holding the door closed. I told them to cut it out. One said, "Oh, it's just you," and let me in. I see the lines they were doing, and the large container filled to the brim with coke. I turned to walk back out, but was blocked, and told that I couldn't go anywhere. They pressured me into doing a line, and right as I was about to, the teachers came banging on the door. The classmate who brought it told my other classmate and I to clean it up. Out of fear and panic, I start scooping it off the table with my hands. Then my arm as my other classmate is frantically washing and drying the counter off. The teachers come in, rushed us out, and confronted us one by one. I told them who it was and what happened on my part. I wasn't hesitating to snitch because I wasn't about to get into trouble for something I felt forced into. I never told my parents, my sisters or anyone else what happened. I'm the reason most of my family don't talk to my uncle. He and I were super close growing up, kinda lost contact, but found out later he was in the same country and he was super keen to come to my wedding. Then all of a sudden, no contact. My mum told me years later that it was because he found out my husband was a different race. My whole extended family were disgusted with him, although it was kind of a last straw type scenario, and basically cut him off. None of them told me because they didn't want me to be upset about the racism or feeling any blame. There was a period where I was shoplifting. I got caught once when I was 35, police involved, and second time 38 when I was home for the holidays. It was in my local shop. I tried to run, but was stopped by a civilian. About 10 employees surrounded me and put me in a room, but they let me go. Thank God. It would have ruined the family holiday and they would never have looked at me the same again. I would have lost any respect I had, especially from my dad. I still wake up thinking about it at 3 in the morning, almost getting a panic attack. Haven't taken a thing since then. Whenever something bad happens now, I just think, well, that's karma, you deserved it. Was it like an obsession? Did you need the objects you were shoplifting for survival? Or was it like for the thrill of it? Well, at first it was BC I was broke, so it was food. It went well, so I started stealing anytime I needed to eat. I could literally fill a bag. One time I needed a cordless drill, and I noticed that the tag was loose on a display drill, so I removed the tag and walked out with it, then got a battery and charger on eBay for $30. Still a Bluetooth speaker. That was probably my most expensive steal, $100. I also stole a pair of shoes, just cut the tag off and walked out. It just became something I did, until I got caught, that is. I got a fine, $250. Then I started again, and I almost got caught stealing a tube of paint from an art store. The alarm went off, and I just legged it. I was friendly with everyone who worked there too. That was the worst part, and got caught the second time for stealing $6 worth of caviar. That was the last time. Now wouldn't even think of it, but back then it just had become a thing. I'm ashamed to say. There was no thrill. I always felt dirty. I think I was depressed, but didn't know it. In my friend group, 5 friends, we were playing Never Have I Ever, and my gay friend told us he had screwed someone. Like normal friends, we wanted to know with who he did it. So we started asking questions. At the next party we still didn't know, and me and 2 other friends saw that the last friend, let's call him Mike, was sitting in silence and didn't want to know who it was. All of a sudden me and the other 2 looked at each other and knew it. It turned out that Mike and my gay friend were having fun together. Mike has a girlfriend, and Midge's gay friend told us they were having fun since they were 14. Still to this day they're having fun without Mike being openly gay and having a girlfriend. Not fair to his GF. Absolutely. He is cheating on her. Don't tell anyone, but I think the earth is round. You are wrong. It is an oblate spheroid. Incorrect. It's clearly a Mario head shape, but I could understand an argument for a Luigi basis. Thank you all for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and to have a great day.